This is John Black, Super Chemist. Part 3 of my sermon, Pastafarian Sermons. Got a playlist called Pastafarian Sermons. This one, though, this series here is called Number One Life Hack. Okay, and we're talking about habit. And then we went into picking a spouse. And we got all the way down to divorce being 50% and how this is somewhat of a lie and somewhat of true. Okay, I mean, sometimes it's 40%, sometimes 50%. Let's go with 50% though, okay? Have a nice even number, right? So I can explain how this is kind of data manipulation. If you have 100 marriages, 72% will succeed. That means 28% will fail. You say, well, how does that 50% divorce rate? Well, those 28 women, okay, that divorced, okay, out of the 100, the first 100 group, right? They're all going to go get married 2.5 times, 2 or 3 times each, all right? Now I want you to think about that, right? You have 70, you got 100 people, right? The marriages at first. 72 are good, 28 ain't, right? But you got 72. So if I take 28 times 2.5, that equals 70. Okay, because they're all going to have 2.5 marriages. They're going to destroy those marriages too, right? So that equals 70. 70 divorces. And remember, we had 72 successes. 72 successes and 70 divorces. See? That's why they say 50%. But it's not 50% like 100 people get married and half of them divorce. No. 72 succeed, 28% fail, and then fail 2.5 more times in other marriages, and they just keep destroying one marriage after the other, destroying them, because they are the problem. Okay? How do we know this? Because once they divorce the first person, they continue to do it over and over and over again. Okay? So we know it's them. You know what I mean? 72 of them make it, but these 28, they don't just fail once. Okay? Then you could say, hey, maybe, whose fault? I'm sure half of it was the men's fault and half the... No. These women continue on to fail it, not 1, not 2, but 2.5. Most times, 3 marriages. So we know that it is their fault. Why would they have that many marriages? And nobody else, the 72 were fine, man. It's just these 28. Just over and over. Okay? Do you want, if you marry someone who is divorced, you're insane. Okay? Your chances, if they're divorced and they, slept with like 5 or 7 people, you might as well just give them half your house, half your money. You give them kids that you're never going to see because after 5 years you're going to be divorced. It's insane. Okay, and I want you to realize these 70 divorces that are created by only 28 women, because they just keep divorcing again and again and again, right? 80% of those divorces are no fault. Okay, all of them. I mean, no, 80% are filed by women. Okay, and like almost, like 90% of that 95% of those are no fault. You know what I mean? There's always a little sliver of other reasons, but 95% of the 80% of the divorces that women do are no fault. Meaning they just, there's no reason they want to, you ask them what's no fault. No, that means no one's at fault. I just don't feel like it anymore. just don't feel like it. Yeah, I made a note, I made a contract, but I just don't feel like it. I think that all women that think, that believe in no fault divorce, I think that all their contracts should also be no fault, since they're the ones who believe in it. You know what I mean? And the ones the people that don't believe in no fault divorce, they won't have no fault contracts with everything else. Because that's what marriage is. It's a contract. You made a contract. Yeah. But all these women that want this no fault divorce, I should be able to make a contract with them. Like, I should be able to be a contractor, right? And I go over to their house and I'm like, $5,000, and I'll remodel your kitchen. You give me $2,500 right now. You give me the lady gives me the $2,500, and I say, you know what? I want to get out of this contract. I'm going to use my no fault reason. And it's not your fault, lady. It's not my fault. I'm not feeling it anymore. This contract, I just don't feel it. I don't want to be in it anymore. Okay, so I'll just keep this $2,500, and because that's what they're saying basically. There's no fault, but I want to take all your cash. You know what I mean? I want to take your children. And marrying a woman who has a child, that's insanity. That's, especially if you combine it in with any of these other things where I'm talking about. But the pair bonding thing and the divorce thing, and the single mother thing, you're a fool. You're a fool to be with anyone who has sex with, more than, actually really one person, in my opinion. After they've had sex with more than one person, they're just garbage. And I don't mean they're garbage as people, all people are, we love and we want to whatever. But we can't turn our back on lies. I mean, facts and truth. You know what I mean? We can't do that, because that's what we stand for, is truth in the Pastafarian religion. But yeah, and you can't have another thing is you cannot have a reverse marriage. Okay, a reverse marriage is where the woman goes out and does the work, and the man stays at home and is his house husband. This does not. 90% of these marriages do not work. They're getting a divorce because the woman cannot. Her biologist just will not allow her to respect the man that stays at home. It just won't. It just won't. If she's the provider, she makes the money. She makes that. She doesn't need him. You know what I mean? What does she need? If she's doing all the stuff that he was supposed to do, what does she need him for? She doesn't need him at all. You know what I mean? And she will have that attitude. And that marriage will, and this goes for men and women that should be listening to this, because if you're a woman and you're trying to get into a reverse marriage, it's just doomed. You're not going to do it. The statistics, it's just, especially a reverse marriage, and you have a high body count when it comes to sex. That means that woman's pair bonding mechanism is shot, and you're going into a reverse marriage, which means not 90% failure rate. You know what I mean? Then you take into divorce or having a kid, previous kid to a previous marriage. You're just asking. You're telling your kid that you hate them. Like, let's say you do a reverse marriage, okay? That's 90% failure rate. Now, what are you telling your kids do you hate your kids? Are your feelings and your emotions, is that really what's... Because you're supposed to take a bullet for your child. You're supposed to, if someone's trying to shoot, you're supposed to jump in front of them and protect them and take that bullet for that child. And you're going to do that? You're going to do that. You can't even take your kid's success rate in his life and make it more important than your own feelings that are not even real, because, that stuff in the belly, butterflies, that love, that's just a chemical reaction. That's not actual real love, okay? The real love is after that. When the butterflies go away and you just stayed together, that's the real love, okay? I always thought that, it was the butterfly thing, and I never thought that butterflies would last forever. I know that 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 3 years, it's going to go away. But that was what I thought. That isn't really love. That is just a chemical reaction. You're basically just doing crack before you, it's just the same thing. It's just endorphins and serotonin, and when you are in love. But you have to be strong, male or female. You need to be strong when it comes to picking your spouse, because it's a duty. It's a duty, man. Okay. And I want to bring up single mothers. Single mothers, you're going to have to spend $200,000 on each kid, okay? And let's just say that's overrated. That's for rich people. It's going to cost $50,000 or something for a kid if to take over a single mother's kid. You have no authority over the child, okay? None. The ex-spouse is going to cause problems. You have to take a back seat to not only the child, but to the ex-husband or the ex-wife. Because that's the mother of my kids. Oh, that's the father of my kids. You can't, whatever, And then, what else here? I don't know what that means. 2 kids. But anyways, taking on a single mother's child when you have no authority over the kid, and then if you're going to have kids with them, now you've got a kid that isn't yours in the house, which wouldn't be bad if you had authority over that child. But the single mother never, ever, ever lets the man have total authority over the child. It's always her child, and it will always be her child. She will not give you that authority. She will not let you be the leader. And the second you are not the leader to a woman, that's the second she loses respect. The second a woman loses respect is the second she walks all over you and destroys everything. Because at that point she hates you for not being a good leader. And I already went over the divorced mom was bad, but a mom who was never married, right? That's even worse than a divorced, mom. All right. So you can count it as a divorce. You can count it as 3 divorces if they didn't even got married. You know what I mean? And they got kids. You might as well count that as 3 divorces. You know what I mean? Multiple baby daddies. I said that. Oh, working wife. Now I already did this. I did a. I don't know. It's like a 4-part series. In my playlist called Pastafarian Sermons, and it's called. I think it's called "Should You Let Your Wife Work" or something like that. And I went in talking about how, in a traditional marriage, you got the man working 50 hours a week. If you count, driving time and cutting the grass and taking out the garbage, etc. And you got the wife doing 50 hours a week at home. All right, and that isn't even what they're doing. That's just when you got for the first 25 years or whatever, when you got kids there, and you ain't even doing that much. But let's just say 50 hours to make it even, right? If you're a really good mom, you know what I mean? You can't put in that many hours, trust me. So that gives you a lot of time. All right, so there's one more video, I guess. One last video. And then I will be done with this series. You all have a blessed day.